They name him Ricky. Paco turns Lisa's room into a nursery, and she gets excited that Ricky will sleep in her room. Since Katie is giving all her attention to Ricky, Lisa feels like being ignored. Lisa also doesn't like the fact that Katie keeps insisting her to call Paco dad. Katie spending most of her time looking after the baby, which makes Paco to take care of Lisa. One day, Lisa finds Paco being friendly with another woman outside their apartment building. However, Lisa doesn't reveal that to her mom. Paco returns home late and says he went out with his friends. Katie gets frustrated as she was exhausted taking care of their son, and he is not helping her. They end up getting into an argument. Before going to bed, Paco apologizes to Katie and reveals that things are rough at work. Meanwhile, Katie is worried about rent and taking care of Ricky. Paco promises he will be there to support her. Soon, Katie starts going to work again, and Paco works at night shift in order to look after the baby during the day. One day, when Katie returns home and notices a strange bruise on baby Ricky's back. She asks Paco about it, but he is unaware of it. She asks if he dropped Ricky. Paco denies doing such thing and tells her to stop imagining stuff. Over the next few days, Ricky gets uncomfortable and keeps crying all the time. Katie tries to comfort him, and finds another bruise on his back. That night, Katie confronts Paco about the two bruises, and accuses him for hitting Ricky. Paco denies that, but Katie still suspects him. This upsets Paco, and he breaks up with her and storms out. Lisa sees Paco leaving in anger, and realizes that he has left for good and embraces her mom to comfort her. Over the next few days, Lisa becomes Ricky's babysitter and takes good care of him. One day, Katie returns home to find Ricky missing from his cradle. She finds some bloodstains on his bed. They frantically look for Ricky around the room, and find him on the top of a closet. Katie wonders how Ricky got there. She tries to get him down, but he crawls away and falls down to the floor. Katie is shocked to find two wings growing from Ricky's shoulder. They learn Ricky can move his wings, which can help him fly. Katie gives Ricky a bath, and washes the blood off his little wings. She warns Lisa to not talk about Ricky at school, since he is not normal and would get unnecessary attention. She keeps him caged in his cradle to keep him from hurting himself. Katie often thinks of calling Paco, but drops the idea every time. Since the wings are growing, Ricky sleeps well and becomes joyful. Katie measures his wings and learns, his wings have grown 8 centimeters long in a week. Katie makes a custom dress for Ricky's comfort. Few days pass by, and Ricky develops feathers on his wings. One day, Paco shows up at Lisa's school and asks her about Katie and Ricky. She tells him they are fine and cuts him off, before he could ask anything, and heads to her bus. Meanwhile, Katie goes out to buy knee pads and a helmet for Ricky, so that he could fly without hurting himself. She was amazed to see him flying until he hits the window and falls down. Lisa tries to tell Katie about Paco, but she ignores since Ricky is doing well and thinks they don't need him. Things finally fall into Katie's favor, as she wins a €2,000 lottery. She then decides to go for Christmas shopping. At the store, Lisa takes Katie aside to get herself a toy. Later, they realize Ricky is missing from the trolley. They find him flying over, and people in the store starts to notice him and get horrified. Katie and Lisa run towards him to stop from hurting himself. The authorities soon realize the seriousness of the situation, and tell the customers to leave the premises. The police rush into the store to catch the baby, but no avail. Eventually, Katie suggests the manager to turn off the lights, and they finally caught Ricky. They forced Katie to take Ricky to a hospital, where doctors examine the baby. The head doctor Bernard suggests she and Paco also should undergo some tests, in order to find the root cause. He asks for Katie's permission to keep Ricky in hospital for some extensive tests, as he also requires a spacious environment to evolve. However, Katie declines the offer and wants to take him home. While leaving, people and the media mobbed her, desperate to catch a glimpse of the baby. The media follow to her apartment building, but she manages to get inside. They spend the next few days inside their home. Ricky is being covered all over the news, while the media continues to camp outside Katie's apartment complex. One night, Ricky wouldn't stop crying, so Lisa let him fly in his room, unknown to Katie. Suddenly the doorbell rings, and it is Paco. Lily calls out for her mother, and she tells Lisa to get inside as she wants to talk to him. Katie and Paco apologize to each other and quickly renew their relationship. Lily gets upset as Paco is back, and thinks he will take Ricky away from them. Meanwhile, Paco reveals that all this time, he was working in a restaurant in Paris. When Katie asks if he had any affairs, he tells her he hooked up with a few women, but it wasn't serious. Later, Paco meets his son. But Ricky got scared after seeing him, and tries to fly away and hurting himself in that process. They eventually manage to bring him down, and Paco thinks their place is too dangerous for Ricky to grow up, but Katie tells him to shut up because she doesn't want to be separated from her son. They learn that Ricky got hurt while flying, and immediately brings in Dr. Bernard. He treats Ricky's wound and says that the apartment is not safe for Ricky. Dr. Bernard suggests a surgery to remove Ricky's wings, which he calls it a safe procedure but painful. However, Katie couldn't decide on anything. Later that night, Lisa had the urge to cut Ricky's wings off with a pair of scissors, but she had to drop it and run back to her bed, as Paco arrives to the room to kisses Ricky goodnight. The next day, Paco thinks they need money to take proper care of Ricky, and suggests allowing the media to film Ricky in exchange for money. This makes Katie upset, and she accuses Paco of returning to their life to make money using their son. But, Paco insists he return for them to start over and be a proper family. Paco also reminds Katie how she baselessly accused him of beating Ricky. He requests her to trust him this time, and Katie finally agrees to film Ricky. The next day, the press is eagerly waiting to get the glimpse of Ricky. Katie and Paco present themselves as a happily married family, even though they aren't married. Paco ties a rope on Ricky's feet to keep him from flying away. To show Ricky's ability, they let go of him as Katie holds the rope. Ricky starts to fly like any other bird, and everyone gets surprised to witness it. Katie gets lost in the moment and accidentally leaves the rope. Ricky starts flying away and higher, prompting everyone to chase after him. They were stopped by the lake, and Ricky flies into the woods. After waiting for a while, the media loses interest in Ricky and leaves, but Katie refuses to move from there. Later that day, Dr. Bernard later joins Paco by the lake. Paco blames himself for everything and thinks Katie will never forgive him. Few days later, we see Paco distributing missing posters for Ricky around the market, but no result. Paco thinks she should join back in the factory, for which she agrees, but still keeps looking for Ricky, thinking he would return. One day, she steps out to walk by the lake. It turns out Katie is trying to take her life by drowning in the lake. As she begins to proceed, she hears Ricky's voice and his flapping wings. She opens her eyes to find Ricky flying above her. She was overjoyed and quickly got out of the lake. Katie slowly crawls towards him, where she realizes his wings got bigger and he has grown up considerably. Ricky looks happy, and Katie apologizes for losing him, but she finds him so happy in the air. Ricky then flies away, and Katie realizes that Ricky's happiness is in the air. She returns home and happily embraces her family. Finally, Lisa accepts Paco into her family, and he drops her every day to her school. Meanwhile, Katie watches them from the window, and reveals she got pregnant again.